Anything you're curious about regarding crypto or Internet of Value and this kind of thing. Um, yeah, just be cordial if you do speak up, and appreciate you joining.
Awesome, and I sent an invite out. Some if you can't come up, it's also it's fine, man. If you have any questions up, please feel free at the bottom right bubble if you want to type anything in over there. And morning, Alex.
Good morning. How are we, gentlemen?
So far, so good. How are you?
Oh, I didn't get washed away last night. I'm loving the fact that I live on a hill. I'm looking out over the top of this valley, and one of the rivers just like completely burst last night. So it'll be interesting to be able to see how the floodwaters down in town sort of, see how they recede over time. So fingers crossed, no one sort of got hurt last night.
Oh dear, where is that? I know this has nothing to do with crypto, but dude, water is like one of the most powerful thing. What happened?
Oh, no, we just had like a humongous storm come over last night, and we do usually get a bit of flooding through the side of the river and things like that. But major waterway and one of the smaller rivers behind it, obviously, because it's got a bit of backflow to it. And there's a nice area to be able to go pick some trout out of the out of the paddocks down the bottom there. So that'd be very, very interesting. But anyway, it's probably a little bit off topic for this morning. Yeah.
No, I hope everybody is at least safe, because water can overpower you quicker than you think. Yeah. If you don't respect it, then it can get bad quick, and then you can get dead quick.
Yeah, I know what you just went through, that's for sure. Yours was way worse than ours, so yeah.
I was actually just watching a weather report, and there's still neighborhoods over there where they've got, feet of water. Um, all of those houses are gone. I mean, I was talking to a friend up, and he was like, "Yeah, might as well bulldoze them." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't like that answer, but you're probably right. These buildings are they're done."
Yeah, you guys got a lot of damage up that way. Actually, just on the topic of damage as well, in regards to ledger scales, actions, and things like that, and the way that we speak in here as well, like this space should really be commended on the way that we actually interact with each other. I mean, I know Twitter can get to be a pretty, like tit for tat kind of space, and the conversations we have in here about, like the internet of value and the way things all go together, that should be really commended on. Um, no one's just sitting there just like calling each other's liars and things like that. They're prepared to be able to actually listen to the information and take it on, and hopefully do their own research on top of that if they don't agree or whichever. And yeah, this space is very, very important. Hey.
Well, I appreciate that personally. I'm sure Death does too. Death, you can make your own comment, but I think it's important. Like it's you got to have like when I saw these spaces, I was actually thinking about this earlier today. I was like, oh, so it's kind of like a conference call, right? But it's public, so it's like you don't know like who's going to show up on the conference call. So you do get certain people that come in and they try and disrupt the conversation, and take care of that, get rid of that, and then hopefully people can have like a constructive conversation and discuss things. There's so many topics and directions that conversations can go, right? I mean, with this topic, I mean, it's a multidisciplinary topic. So, and I've been surprised, genuinely surprised. Like the people that show up, like a lot of these people, are very knowledgeable. I mean, it's not like this is, yeah, it's been. But anyway, I appreciate the comment. Thank you. That's kind of what I want to create. Like I want to at least with ledger scale to start with. We'll hopefully get further down the road, but I think that's a good sort of beachhead. Like let's start with let's have meaningful conversations. Where people aren't just bickering, and let's like discuss topics, and with all the tribalism and stuff in crypto, it's hard to do that sometimes. Um, but I want to, at least with this like sort of format here with the Twitter Spaces, if somebody is just like attacking other people, then I can just boot them, right? Like, yeah, get out of here, go attack somebody else, you know.
Yeah, it's a very, very healthy form, and like as I say, like I try even when I didn't have daylight savings, 5:30 in the morning, I'd be up just to be able to catch up with you guys and see what's going on around the world, and see who's implementing, good technology for obviously for what's happening for the future. And I think it's just a matter of time until they really start picking these things up. So there's too much going on out there and too many decisions to be made to be able to say that crypto is not involved with our future in a big way.
Oh man, dude, anybody that thinks crypto is going away is out of their mind or just completely unaware. One of the two. Same result. But like, yeah, no, crypto's not going anywhere. This is here to stay. How it's applied, like to the real world, okay. There's questions. There's innovation that's available. There's curiosity and like creation, like creativity that can that is yet to come. But no, the fundamental technology there's 0% chance it's going away. None. 0%. It's here to stay.
So just on the topic of Internet of Value, this deal that Swift seems to be doing with JP Morgan at the moment, has anyone got any more details on that, on exactly which direction they look like they're actually going with? Or is that just more of a, like, JP Morgan's trying to be able to get in with Swift to be able to sort of circumnavigate the whole XRP thing?
I haven't heard about that, but there's no chance that JP Morgan hasn't had a multi-decadal relationship with Swift. I mean, JP Morgan's one of the biggest correspondent banks. Like they're probably like a major player within the Swift network. They have to be.
Yeah, like the Swift Go system and things like that. Obviously, that's been around, but they've only been touching a certain amount of their international counterparties. Now they're saying with JP Morgan getting involved, they're looking at actually having some kind of technology to be able to do their trades within 3 minutes. And obviously, saying 3 minutes does not sound like it's actually going to be the XRPL.
You want to throw that up top? I haven't seen that, no. But I mean, JP Morgan. There's no. The JP Morgan has. There's no way that JP Morgan and Swift have been engaged in business for decades. Probably since the inception of Swift. That's yeah.
Yeah, totally. I obviously understand the relationship that's been there before. It was just more on the timing of their settlements and things like that, looking at a 3-minute marker. I was starting to be able to wonder, okay, like if the XRPL can only do X amount of transactions per minute or per second or whichever, and if they were taking a larger share, obviously there would be a little bit of a backlog with that as well. Just down to just the frequency of transaction. I was wondering if they're just putting a time, like, saying there's going to be a public timestamp of around 3 minutes just to be able to cover off.
Regardless.
Go ahead. Sorry. I would think. I mean, JP Morgan's already they've done the Ethereum thing. They've done the JP Morgan coin. They're fighting back. Like they're not gonna just like let this new technology come in and take them out, which is a very reasonable reaction. I mean, it's almost like an immune system. Like you get a virus and your immune system kind of reacts, right? Like it defends itself. That's totally understandable. But in 3 minutes is definitely better than 3 days. And Swift is kind of doing the same thing. Like they've made efforts where oh shoot, what do you call their thing? They've got a thing where they're trying to do basically faster payments or whatever. Oh, what do they call it? Give me a second.
Are you referencing the Swift Go system that they're running?
No, it's a different name. it's like a, oh shoot, what is their thing? Maybe they just call it faster
Yeah.
payments.
So, are you sure it's not the J.P. Morgan and Visa announcement? And the article you read just said Swift in the title, Alex?
No, so
There,
even Crypto Aries got it up here as well. So when the Swift and JP Morgan announced at Cybus today, Swift Go and JP Morgan with Expedite Remit joined forces. So it looks like they're trying to be able to do some kind of system between JPM and Swift. I've just pinned that up to the top there. That was from about 8 hours ago or so. And as I say, like, I mean, I understand sort of like the knee-jerk reaction and, yeah, protecting their legacy system and things like that as well. It just seemed really strange. I did read somewhere that they're looking at about a 3-minute time frame as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's knee jerk. Yeah, so here's the thing, though. You still have to be connected to J.P. Morgan's system, right? So you have to trust J.P. Morgan.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what my thoughts on the whole system was as well. I mean, there's going to be a lot of international players that realistically don't want to have to deal with JP Morgan, or or with the states as well. I mean, if you look at what's going on with OPEC at the moment, I don't think the Saudis are all that happy with the states at the moment either. So
Well, that's the whole thing with the distributed ledger technology. It allows them to have their own siloed systems that can interconnect, and so there would be really no difference from, say, if you were to adopt J.P. Morgan's system, right? There would be just no difference from you working with J.P. Morgan today. It's still just their system anyway. I think it would have to do with Onyx though, which if you look up ONYX, which is their EVM based chain basically, but that's been around for years already.
yeah, yeah, I have actually seen that, and I think that as we say, like it's going to be a multi-chain world as well. So I mean, everyone's going to be able to make their decisions. So I just thought it was kind of funny that JP is really trying to be able to bring that relationship with Swift out as big and as most powerful as they possibly can, just right at this very moment. Seems very JP Morgan style, if you know what I mean.
Oh, it's a power play. Like, that's a power play. That's JP Morgan stepping up and saying, "Hey, we're here." Hang on a second. I got people here.
I look at it a little differently. Right, there's a lot of stuff going on right now that would be the end of Swift in some senses, right? If you think about the BRICS nations in Asia, right, they don't like Swift, and so I could see that as more of a little try and feel like reassurance taunt in a sense of dominance, right? Because J.P. Morgan is particularly more dominant in the Western Hemisphere.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I mean, a bit of healthy competition out there is not going to be able to hurt anyone as long as the system works a little bit better than what it has for X amount of years on the the way that they've decided to be able to set the fractional lending and all that kind of stuff, which is obviously still going to happen, but maybe they'll start putting a few more markers in there to be able to say, "Wow, you're going too far again."
It would be nice if they had talked about how they would be doing the quick payments. By the way, if anybody in the audience, has any questions, topics that they'd like to bring up or come up and speak, or at the bottom right, if you can't come up and speak and have a question, you could always hit the bottom right bubble and type your question in over there.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me start inviting people up. I see Spin the Bits there. How you doing? Got OC in the house. Trying to invite some people up. Anyway, FYI, Death, I'm gonna have a hard stop. So at our normal time. So apparently I'm going to a concert tonight. So I'm gonna have to dress up or something.
Yeah, we're closing the space at 5 tonight. Right.
Okay, that's good. That works. That's actually better. I was thinking 5:30, but 5 is better. Give me more time.
Yeah, it's Thursday. We typically close at 5s on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I mean, Mondays and Thursdays. Sorry.
Yeah, whatever it is, it is. I don't know, what topics are people curious about. I'm okay. Here, Spin the Bits has got it recorded. Okay. I mean, we can talk about whatever.
Okay, there you go. Finally. Sorry. Hey Ron. Hey guys. Sorry, my device is not.
Hey, what's up?
My device is not, helping me out here. So I was trying to speak up. I had to dial in from the other phone. How are you guys doing?
Good. How you
Good,
doing?
man. Good. Just been busy. Busy.
I've seen some things with your progress that are very encouraging.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Yeah, we've been working nonstop from past 3 years now. This. I'm just, mostly I'm just waiting for this lawsuit to go away.
Yeah.
So just hoping. I don't know. This thing is dragging from so much time now. I'm also considering. I'm looking for a lawyer now to hire. To file the amici status, so that we can be heard. This case is going on forever now.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it.
That would be awesome.
Yeah. I'm reaching out to my circle. I'm trying to get the lawyer hires to file the amicus status in there.
That would be I think that would be very appropriate.
Yeah. We are using XRPL. The whole system is, our whole business is based on XRPL, right? And then this impact us a lot. If they lose the case against the SSC, my business will shut down, and I don't want to do that. Right? I want to participate in this now. I want to showcase that they are not the only one building in this space. SEC gotta respect other people, who are building in this space.
Well, I mean, I think it's appropriate. It's totally appropriate.
Yeah. So that's what what's going on. And apart from that, we are now participating in the second round of CBDC. Hopefully that will come along very nice. Also, I'm trying to participate in there is another hackathon going on for Australian CBDC. That will in that we will also participate.
That's cool. I hadn't really thought about. I know. Anyway, I hadn't really thought of. Yeah, I can see the CBDC angle.
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard, we won the first round finally. In the CBDC, we were selected for the second round. Now we're gonna work on the private ledger now. To showcase basically a kind of a retail banking app. Where you have fiat and then your digital asset and then interoperable with each other.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward for $0 fee for activate the wallet, man. Like that's a huge step for me. I love this. Nobody should be paying any amount of XRP in order to activate the wallet. That's what my opinion is. And then the private ledger will give us the advantage of giving people free account, and then they can use that account privately using XRPL to make CBDC payments or crypto payments or whatever they need to do. At least it will be
Well, I mean, in essence, like from a code perspective, outside of the specifics of how the ledger works, each ledger, but like, what's the difference between that, like what you're already doing with Bitcoin? What's the? I mean, there can't be much code difference between that and like a CBDC. Right? Like a CBDC is just another ledger, right?
Yeah. So when you say private ledger is kind of a side chain, where you dictate your own rules. The I think the most from code point of view, there are not much changes. There are few changes that we did. We're still doing it because it's so not only retail, we have a merchant portal up and running as well, right? Along with that, we are also making a CBDC portal for central banks, just for the showcase, for that. The huge difference that I noticed is again, activation fee. You have $0 fee for your activation, and then you have free of cost transaction. The cost is million dropped of the XRP, which is less than a penny. So that's amazing.
Well, back when because your customers are self custody, right?
Yeah. That's the end goal.
So
Yeah.
back when I did like used uh SnapSwap, um they actually gave you like, I don't know, 20 or 50 XRP or something, like just to get your account activated.
Yeah. So that's the thing that I don't like, because if you look at the mass adoption, you know it won't happen like people has to pay up some amount of money in order to activate the wallet. It will happen when they know, hey, there is some app that they can use, which is a currency agnostic app, and then it's free of use. Basically, a cent or 2 cent, people doesn't mind to spend cent or a 2 cent rather than spending $5 to $10 on the fee, right? In a traditional world. So, and it doesn't matter if you use crypto or the CBDC or the fiat. Basically, CBDC are the replica of fiat. It doesn't matter to the system, but it gives a huge advantage to the end user that it's almost free of cost.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, I totally agree. The reduction in cost or transaction cost is that's like the value creation.
Oh yeah. And everybody like to to have some everybody like to save money. It's not something that we are the only one thinking about
Yeah,
this.
you don't have to be a freaking rocket scientist,
Yeah.
right? If
Exactly.
you can pay $1 instead of $5, like, and get the same transaction, like, then
Yeah.
pay the dollar. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah. And then now the good thing is this is something different from our original use case, because the original use case was just spend Bitcoin, the receiver get Bitcoins. But now with the help of interoperability, we are using the XRPL DEX, the pathfinding thing. Using that, you spend Bitcoin, other person receive choice of their currency with the offer system in place. It doesn't have to be USD, it doesn't have to be Canadian, it can be anything you want to, as long as we have the liquidity in there to support that transaction.
Are you guys, are you running a node yet?
I think so. I'm not sure about it. How my development team is doing it. I never asked them. But I can get this answer for you that whether we are running a node. But I know for this private ledger we will be running our own validator rippled server. I think that's the validator that will be running just for that. I'm not sure about node.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. I
It is
mean,
what it is. Yeah, exactly, exactly. The idea is to utilize the network rather than our own validator or nodes. Just use the existing network, whatever is there for the from the infrastructure point of view, and then because these are testnet things, right? These are not production things. When production we have a lot of traction, then we'll think about getting nodes and validator hooked up in the production system. But for the private ledger, we are 100% doing the rippled. I think rippled is the validator, that everybody talks about.
well, I mean, it's a scalability problem. If you do it on a private ledger, I mean, then I guess you can determine who. I mean, I guess a private ledger is more like a permissioned ledger, but then you can determine who's who's the folks running the servers.
Yeah. So I think from my point of view, I don't think central bank will be nodes in the nodes or validator in the in the overall CBDC hierarchy. Why? Because if you see like when Jay send some money to Ron, anybody can take that hash and then put it in the Explorer and get the wallet address along with the wallet balance of from Jay to Ron, right? Doesn't matter. They know who this wallet is associated with, but they know the wallet balance. I think that's the gap that private ledger has to fill, that only commercial banks will be running the nodes in the system, so that they will be able to pull up the customer data rather than anybody else is seeing what this guy has or not.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense because you have to have like compliance.
Yeah, 100%. See, people over here talks more about decentralized fancy words, this and that, but the ground reality is really, really different. The rules and regulation that are imposed on us, on any other crypto business or vast virtual as a service provider, are tremendous, right? They not only from KYC point of view, but also from AML point of view and KYT point of view. So KYC is know your customer, and AML is anti-money laundering with OFAC sanction listing and all the stuff. And then KYT comes along with your know your transaction, where they ask us to do the EDD, enhanced due diligence, on if the funds, if there are there are some kind of templates that we have in place that that trigger that rule set of if there is a suspicious transaction. But most of them are not, but some of them, there are always bad actors that you can't avoid to coming on the platform, but they will be tackled. So that's where I think it's important as well. But from my point of view, it's overly regulated, this place, because
What I mean, I don't, if you don't mind explaining what is EDD. I've not heard of that. That's the
so
first time I've heard of that.
so EDD is enhanced due diligence. So EDD is, let's just say the customer is trying to, withdraw the funds. Like, let's say he initiated a 4,000 transaction. After 5 minutes, he initiated another, 8,000 transaction. After 10 minutes, he initiated another withdrawal request of, 5,000 transaction. The system itself will send us a trigger that, hey, there is something going on, that the wallet is trying to draw all the money. So this is where the system will send them, hey, it's fine if you're withdrawing this money, but can you please provide us some kind of assurance that it's really you. So this is where we can ask them, hey, maybe provide your utility bill or something like that. That's comes under enhanced due diligence. Maybe utility bill with a name on it, your signature on it, and your picture along with that. That's EDD. Just an example.
It's like a a regulatory thing or
it is a regulatory thing. It is everything from KYC, AML point of view are regulatory things. There is, we are just an intermediary because we are a platform provider for transaction. All the stuff that a common people can use. But those things comes under regulatory. By law we have to apply it. It doesn't matter whoever says you don't have to do it, this and that. Either they are not familiar with the reality of the things on the ground, or they are just lying on your face.
So is that basically like a SARS report?
Yeah, so not SAR is called SARS or STR. So STR is suspicious transaction report, and I don't know what SAR stands for. I think maybe suspicious, maybe acting report.
Suspicious activity or something.
Yeah, it's called STR here. Suspicious transaction report. So this case happened only once in 1,000 time. So very very rare. But this thing happens because you don't know. And another thing is, let's say, just say, now crypto is borderless, right? But the government says you cannot operate outside of Canada. But how you can how the hell you can put a impose on on the Bitcoin payments on the layer 1, that that is borderless. A person from India can onboard BTC in the wallet of person sitting in Canada.
Well, this is the problem the governments face, that they're not used to facing. So this is where this is the intersection of where, like, creativity and stuff's gonna have to happen, because the governments are gonna, they're gonna be governments, right?
And to be very frank, they don't want people like us to be in there, because they already have all their setups, all their friends and circle, as a cartel in there. They don't like any other third additional person coming in and innovating the space, and basically like taking away their business. They don't like that.
Yeah. Totally. And regulation is important. Like regulation and compliance. Like, this stuff isn't. It's not a joke. Like, there's a reason. There's reasons that people developed these regulations. It wasn't like a bunch of people were like, hey, let's sit around and like make up a bunch of rules for no reason. Like, that's not real. That's just not how the world works. We need this stuff. So
okay, I think run. I gotta run. I have another meeting that I forgot to attend. So it's going on. So I'll join back some other day. We can talk about this thing in detail.
Okay, yeah, no worries. Have a great day. Nice to speak with you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ron. Bye.
That was awesome having him in here for a couple minutes. Did I just rug? Is everybody still there?
Yeah, you're good. No, Jay's a smart guy, man. He's doing good work. I'm a big proponent of his efforts.
Yeah, as I believe as well. I like what he's doing. I believe in what he's doing for sure. I think he's gonna go places for sure.
Oh, he's already. Oh man, I'm not. Anyway, yeah, he's a good guy. He's anyway. Yeah, he's doing good work, and I think he's doing honest, good work. So yeah. I'm a proponent.
Yeah, it'd be nice to be able to see how he goes with the Australian CBDC as well. So that's very cool. There doesn't seem to be much like talk of things actually changing down this way at the moment. I mean, obviously they put out the EAUD and they had some issues with that, but yeah, hopefully he can come up with a bit of a plan and actually get things happening in this space.
Australia is kind of in a way like pull like they're I don't know, like I think the Bank of England is the leader, if you want to, that's my opinion. But Australia is coming up right, like as like a close, like, well, in Singapore now, China's coming in too. But with the CBDC stuff, I've been Australia's making moves, man. I mean, granted, this stuff always happens slow, but Australia's at least making, they're doing stuff. It's interesting to see, because Australia is such a resource rich country that kind of like what China's trying to do with their CBDC, like Australia could kind of try and do in a way. Because China's been a little rough on Australia. It's a little bit. It's an understatement, but from a monetary perspective. But Australia still has the actual resources, right? So if they want to put things and run like transactions through their CBDC, they're sovereign country, right? Like they can do whatever the hell they want to do. It'll be interesting to see how all this unfolds.
Well, it's the same as what we've talked about before, Kama. Like, I mean, like the new innovation that might come out from a central hub somewhere. Obviously, they want to be able to do that satellite testing ground, and I mean, Australia's been known to be able to be that one of those testing grounds in the past. But maybe because of its size and its GDP and all that kind of stuff as well, they're probably starting with some smaller countries like Palau and Myanmar and just seeing exactly how that goes before they start actually implementing stuff here too. So
Can't forget Bhutan.
Actually, there's a guy that I know that actually I met through the Ripple community. And he's not in here, but he's joined these chats before, and he's had a couple successes. And he's like a serial entrepreneur type, and he one of the things he did was basically piloted it was a health care database type thing, to keep it simple. But they deployed it first in Australia, and then once they proved it was worked, right, then they brought the thing over to America. And so like Australia is basically like the testing ground, but like Australia and America are pretty close, like I mean the two countries. So anyway, but Australia was basically the testing ground or the proving ground or whatever you want to call it.
oh yeah, I totally agree, mate. Like, innovation needs to be set out somewhere, and at the end of the day, I mean, Australia, because of its global position and G7 and all that kind of stuff, I mean, it would be a good position to be able to actually push that CBDC out and actually get things running down here. It's very funny in the Australian media. There doesn't seem to be that much in the way of details coming out from the government. I mean, there's murmurs from the government for these different plans from the Reserve Bank of Australia and hooking up with a few different companies there to be able to sort of get things up and off the ground. But once again, as we know, Australia following the US in their regulations and regulatory process definitely seems to be a bit of a weight on running CBDCs down here as well. The government really doesn't seem to speak about it all that much. They're too busy trying to be able to get equipment and money and things like that over to Ukraine at the moment. So I mean, I don't want to really get
I
into that,
wouldn't
but yeah.
expect them to. I wouldn't expect them to say much of anything until
Oh no, I
they
agree, man.
get
Yeah.
it figured out. Like there's gonna be a lot of thought that has to because there's so many different perspectives you have to look at things from, and then you got to like kind of coalesce those perspectives. It's and then I mean, if you said anything, it would be like a premature statement. Like you can't say anything like it because you know if you talk to one perspective, right, and then but you haven't heard the other perspectives yet, like you can't. How do you make it? What are you just gonna like parrot the first perspective? Like that's not it's not reasonable. Um, you got to listen to all the different perspectives and then try and like bring it together.
No, I totally understand, mate. I understand politics pretty well, and the way things need to be done. I mean, the only major information that we've actually had out down this way at this stage has actually been almost on an ERC20 token, um, and I just didn't think that that was really going to be a viable option at the end of the day, especially when there's definitely some better technology out there in different ways, but. There has been a bit of chat of XDC being involved with trades down here as well. So that's going back into more the commodities market. But I mean that's also not 100% verified if they're going to do that either. So
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't XDC experiencing a good bit of adoption in the Asian market?
yeah, it is. XDC seems to be doing quite well. I mean, it's not reflected in price or whichever, but yeah, the general concept seems to be picked up quite well.
That's interesting. I've been sort of casually observing that one.
Hey guys, I've been sitting in on these chats regarding precious metals, and I was in on one yesterday, and they had some pretty knowledgeable people on there. And they were saying as the economy tanks, they made a correlation between silver and energy. One guy did, and he was an expert. He deals with it, and he said as the energy price goes up, the silver price goes up because there's a correlation. And he showed one instance where it was the opposite, but the overall chat was involved on investing in silver. He said, as the economy tanks, as the dollar loses its value, people will go to precious metals. He gave an example. He said there's $60 billion worth of silver. If you had 60 billion, you could buy up all the silver. He said India is buying silver hand over fist. So I was wondering how, when the economy goes down, I know that I believe they're going to go into crypto, but do you think precious metals would be a competition for it as the dollar loses its value, as we get into a global mess? What are your thoughts on that?
Competition to what? To a digital asset, you mean?
Yeah, because he's talking about how one lady who's a very wealthy investor, he knows of one case, maybe it's his client, I don't know, is just buying tons of silver, everything she can get her hands on. They were talking about ETFs, and one guy said we're going to have a very bad situation if people start to want to cash those ETFs in, they're not going to get their metal. And he called it a crisis. He had a name for it. But would people go toward gold and silver? Would that be competition to crypto? I know we need regulatory clarity for it, but do you think that will happen first? I mean, Do you see what I'm asking? I don't know
Yeah,
if I'm-
yeah. And so I personally think I like silver myself a lot more than gold. I think it has a much bigger upside. So I agree with the perspective of uh, looking at maybe silver over gold if you're going to try and purchase a metal. I don't think that they are a competition, though. I don't think so at all, actually, because you could even take it of the instance of what does the piece of metal represent for most people? It's a piece of value, right? And so crypto is not trying to replace, or blockchain digital assets, DLT in particular, right? It's not trying to replace that value. It's just trying to make that value be able to be exchanged much easier and quicker, right? Transparent and in an ESG friendly way. So if anything, it's beneficial because you just give a different value aspect to be able to be maybe transferred from one person to the next. But yeah, I don't see them as competition. I see it as anything complementary to the next type of multipolar asset system that could exist easily with the DLT technology.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Death said as well, ML. Um, like the actual value of silver is definitely underrated at this stage as well. I mean, the pricing of it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, when I was buying my physical silver about 6 or 10 years ago, I think it was costing them about $17 to be able to get it out of the ground, and I was buying it for $13. And now with the amount of silver, just silver by itself, the use case of silver to be able to actually just create solar panels and things like that. I think just solar panels by itself would, if they actually like got up to full production of what they want to be able to do, there's not enough silver that's actually been stored, and there's not enough silver production to be able to actually keep up with the production of just the solar panels by themselves. And silver's used in a lot more things than just solar panels. So the way that they've been pricing silver and pushing it back down seems like it's going to have that sort of that coiling effect, and I think it'd be a really good hedge. But yeah, I don't think it's ever going to compete with the crypto market. It's just obviously the coiling of the price has not reflected its actual full use case, and the paper side of things. So obviously there's 3 to 4 times more pieces of paper out there that says that they owe you an ounce of silver than there is actual silver to be able to give anyone. So if there was such a bank run or whichever, I think a lot of people would be just getting US dollars back or whatever denominator.
they got
Well,
into
like a
sorry, there's 250 pieces of paper out to 1 ounce of silver. The thing they were focusing on was the psychology, and I was thinking about that in relation to crypto. He's one of these guys, and they have a lot more knowledge than I do. They said I'm paraphrasing. People will go toward real money, and this is 2,500 years old, silver and gold. Crypto is 10.
Yeah, but how do you get it, right? And so think about you as like a dealer. If I'm a silver dealer, right, and so all of a sudden shit is hitting the fan, and I think precious metals prices are going to go up. I don't want to sell it to anybody because I want to retain that value, that increase in value, and so I think most people don't realize that you probably won't really be able to get your hands on things if we were to be put in that kind of catastrophic situation. I don't think it's going to personally play out, like that, but
okay, here's at least my opinion, and it doesn't matter. I can be wrong, but I think it's better. So when you're focusing on the psychology of a market, this is kind of like what technical analysis or TA or whatever you want to call it. This is kind of what that's like chipping away at or trying to ascertain or understand or whatever the word you want to use. Um, and that's one thing. But the to me when I say like I like to focus on the fundamentals, I want to know the functionality. And so I don't care if it's silver, gold, or a paper dollar. Um, I've made the joke several times. I put the dollar in the CD tray or the gold coin in the CD tray and I emailed it to you. Like, did you get it? Like, of course you didn't. So you got to look at the digital asset and say, okay, so this thing has a functionality set that allows me to do something that I can't do with other things. Like there's no other real way to send value across the world instantly without a digital asset. So that's the value creation. You don't have to think about it too hard. That's the value creation. It's functional. It's useful. It's got utility value. That's it. The silver and gold and all this stuff, like, that has a lot of psychological stuff with people from years and whatever nonsense. But no, I mean these digital assets are useful. You can accomplish stuff. Look at the TapJet Amici briefing. They're like, hey, we need to use this technology in order for us to provide our service. Look at Jay that was just on here a minute ago with Spin the Bits. He's like, yeah, we need this service. Like this network, this digital network, and this digital asset, like this enables our business to conduct business. Like that's the value creation.
Does the average person know that? One guy was saying the average investor 100 or a couple of $1,000, and they go toward, when they get nervous, they go toward metals because they see it as a greater store of value. Do they even know what XRP does and its value, as you just stated?
No freaking clue.
And I don't think most people will ever, most likely will, for the most part. Just a societal thing. It takes so long for society kind of grasps the concepts of what's actually going on in the back end. And in most cases, you could look at today's society, right? Most people don't really understand what's going on in the back end on anything. And so, I don't know. I don't really have much hopes for that one, ML. But, interesting thing enough, if you go for retaining to like prices of like maybe gold, right? If you go to the debt clock, for the U.S. debt clock, right? They have the estimated price of what an average price of ounce of gold should be right now, which is right around like $35,000. And that's without, if you add in the unfunded liabilities and things like pension funds in the country. So, it's there's no question that the metal markets have been manipulated by people like J.P. Morgan and Deutsche Bank that have obviously had fines for it over the years. That's probably amounted to nothing for them, but yeah, there's no question. There's a there.
And once again, that comes back down to the twisting of the system with obviously, like the paper bonds for precious metals. The more pieces of paper out there, the harder it gets to be able to uncoil that wind up of value in the system too. So I think that's something that the governments were going to be looking at pretty hard across the world, just trying to be able to go, okay, how do we minimize the risk of bank runs if they ever do try to be able to put physical precious metals against some of these assets or actual value.
This is where I think CBDC has a real, and I'm excited about this. I'm that big of a freaking nerd. This is how big of a thing I think this can be with the CBDCs. If you have a CBDC with an interest rate, you can apply monetary policy and like change that interest. Like you can't have an interest rate on a piece of paper. Okay, so this is not an available tool in terms of monetary policy in the current moment. But if you had a CBDC that was broadly circulated, then and you had an interest rate on it, and you could change like say you had a bank run, right? What you would expect is for the commercial banks to raise their interest rates, right? Because they want to attract deposits because they're running out of collateral. I mean, it's reserve accounts and what have you. But anyway, if you can think in a gold world if you want to, instead of reserves. But it is whatever. So, but then you could have like a central bank have a CBDC, and they could lower the interest rate, right? So now what happens is you're looking at a situation, you being just like an actor in the economy. You're looking at a situation where I can pull my money out of this commercial bank and go to like this CBDC or cash equivalent, um, and I can like either be making 10% at the commercial bank, or I can pull it out into cash and make like 1%. Right. So when the spread blows out, this is what always happens when markets like get um effed, is the spread blows out. So once you see the spread blow out, then what happens is you're incentivized, instead of taking 1%, you're incentivized to go and get 10% at the commercial bank. And so that means you're now making a deposit. So you counterweight the bank run, because the bank run is essentially the destruction of credit, if that makes any sense. And so if you can prevent that, and and you can incentivize the prevention of that by the spread blowing out.
Yeah, my point, not my point wasn't so much to, good information, Carmen. My point was more to the fact that when we start looking at that precious metals market, and the fact that no one really wants to be able to take actual physical silver into their hand or physical gold and actually get it delivered to your house because of obviously the costings that are involved and things like that too. Those pieces of paper that says they do owe you an ounce of silver or gold, if the pricing of that ever sort of, went to a point where it was quite large and it happened in such, quick succession, a lot of people would actually go, you know what, I wouldn't mind actually having that physical asset in their hands at the end of the day. And if there is a situation where, like economy is about to collapse or whichever, a lot of people would actually like to be able to start, getting their actual goods delivered to their house, so therefore they can actually control that situation too. So yes, I agree with the spread and the bank run and things like that, but yeah, the actual physical asset, not many people really want to be able to deal with.
I
Well,
mean,
it's
if I
interesting.
used to buy gold, I've had gold coins before I got rid of them. I've got a gold necklace, I guess. But it's just something I've had for so long, I don't honestly forget I even have it on. It's what I would want to own it like physically. I wouldn't. The ETFs and stuff, all the fees and all the stuff that's arranged with that. Like, if you're gonna own gold, just own the freaking gold. Like, put it in your hand.
That's what one guy said. He said the people that own silver do not want to give it up, constricting the supply. They talked about supply and they talked about the trusted aspect of it. And my thought was, and I'm not beating a dead horse, but people don't even know what a CBDC is. Do they trust digital assets enough if you had a collapse, which I think we're headed toward? Everybody else does. Would they take it and run toward a digital asset? They don't even know what it is. They would need to get coaching. If they're going to put it, I got a friend who's putting $250,000 blocks of money in CDs because he's getting 4%. And I heard another chat talking about it. I think they would run toward something more trusted. I'm not making the argument against crypto, but I'm saying it's the psychology of people. That's all.
Yeah, and you know what, ML, you're right, particularly more so prominent in the United States. If you kind of look at the rest of the world, for the most part, they're all digital already anyway. But there's still tons of people who use cards. I don't think that would be any different. There's still plenty of people growing up, especially the younger generations, that they don't hold cash typically. It's swiping with the phone, Apple Pay or something like that. I think that will be just pushed more prominently, in the means of using CBDCs.
In Asia, it's all QR codes.
QR codes, yep.
Like you go, you don't get a receipt like at the end of your grocery shopping trip. You get a QR code that basically has embedded the information of all the stuff you're buying, and then you just like scan the QR code and pay it.
But yeah, trust wise, I do agree with you. There'll definitely be some. It's going to be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I'd be very interested on the use of QR codes and things like that going forward too. They're not as safe as what people may think. I mean, if you're getting it from a trusted source, like your grocery store or whichever, not so much of an issue. But the malicious side of QR codes is quite prevalent nowadays too.
Yeah,
But
that's a good point.
Going back to like Emil's point of the general public. I mean, obviously us in here, we're not exactly general public when it comes to our views and the way that we look at technology moving forward too. Even like there's a guy that's come to be able to stay with me for a little bit, and he wants to be able to get into crypto. I've told him all about it, yet he still hasn't actually done anything about it. And when it comes to the money side of things, a lot of his views, and I'm probably speaking for him, but a lot of his views is that when the government comes to you and says we're here to help, that's the biggest scariest thing. So when it comes to changing over from a system that you've known, which is obviously just the fiat system, that seems to work. It's tangible. You can hold it in your hand. And I don't think the fiat's actually going to move away. But when you start running a system along the sides of from fiat, it's almost too scary to be able to think of. Like, people don't want to change the way that they interact with their currency that they've trusted for X amount of years. So there's a big psyop side of things to actually changing over to a digital age too.
I'm not actually so. See, this is the finance part of, because everything's relative. This is the finance part of me. I'm not so worried about the psyops part of whatever, because if the government wants to know something about you, they're going to know it, right? I mean, you're not gonna. You're not invisible, right? I mean, you exist. Like you are, your account, whatever, like all the stuff. Like if they need access to your like information about you, they're gonna get it. Like
I'm not talking about the malicious nature of a psyop, karma. What I'm talking about is the actual mentality of just the general public that's out there. I mean, we're talking about people that from the age of whatever age you get a bank account up until the day that you die, you've been dealing with this fiat-based system for so long that they don't really know anything else. And when change comes, a lot of people are very, very skeptical about it. I mean, the idea of a CBDC actually scares the general public quite a lot as well because of the programmable nature. And everyone goes, oh, well, CBDC, well, they can decide when I'm going to spend my money and what I can spend my money on. And if I've bought too many steaks this week that, that I won't be able to buy anymore, and they'll decide what I can do with them, with my money. Which, okay,
I think
possibility in the
consider
worst
that.
world it could happen, but that's
I
not
think
exactly what's going to happen for the future either. I don't see that being an actual situation, but it's the mentality of the general public. They're not prepared to be able to trust the government to be able to change a system, even though most people in the system now don't realize that system's broken.
Well, I think some of that is, and I'm not saying it's inaccurate, but I think it's a little on the, because I hear that narrative uh, from multiple places, and I think it's a little fear mongering. But I think that it also ignores like what I just explained a minute ago. Like if you enable the benefits that can come from the monetary policy, like if you add the, because like there's only so many tools a central bank has to execute monetary policy, right? You know, lower interest rates, buy assets, etc. That's basically it, actually. Um, and then, like, if you can add, like, if you could add, like, a tool where you could change the interest rate on, like, CBDC and help, stifle and stop a bank run, because nobody wants a bank run. I mean, everybody loses in that situation. So if you could add like an additional tool to stifle the potential of a bank run, I think this is a very beneficial thing. And I think the folks that are concerned with, and you can design these currencies, these CBDCs, where the government does not have the ability to tell you what you can spend or what you can spend on, or they can be designed like in China, where the government does have control like that, right? But there can be also designed where the government does not have control like that. And it's just, I think it's fear mongering. It's like, dude, this technology is not so bad. Like,
Yeah. Look, I totally agree with you, Kana. Like, I'm 100% about moving into CBDCs, but that's, like if you think about the general or general population that don't understand exactly how much more beneficial our systems that we're looking forward to be able to implementing will actually be for them. It's the general public that's just not used to that change. So I totally agree with you and pretty much everyone else in this room exactly how things will get so much better when we do make that change. But just the general public aren't all that comfortable with it as of yet.
well, that's 100% true.
To be honest
No,
with you, I don't.
people are scared, and especially the older folks, because the older folks, they don't think if something's digital, it doesn't exist. Like that's the, if it's digital, it doesn't exist. And but sometimes I want to ask them, and I'm like, hey, did you get like an email or like a text message from like your kid? Did that message not exist? Right? Like, come on, like that's a digital object. Like the email is a thing, the text message is a thing. You received it digitally. Like like, how does that not exist? You got it, right? Like, but anyway, I try not to be too hard on people, because
Yeah, and I still don't think that most people will ever really know that CBDCs even exist. I think central banks will be the ones and financial institutions will be the ones that touch them, and that people will have stable coins. And the stable coin will probably just be issued by whatever corresponding bank you use. And so I don't think it would really be any different than it really is today for like you using your bank account or anything. I think the only difference would be is it would just be card or phone instead of or maybe RFID in the future instead of having the ability to use cash. I think that's the significant difference personally. It's just the no cash. Other than that, I don't think most people will realize the difference.
Yeah, man, I totally agree with you, bro.
Yeah, I agree with you also, Death. I think, the key to this thing is making it so seamless for people to not notice, right? The tech will be on the back end side of things, running it. and people won't notice. It's the objective of the game to avoid as much friction as possible when you're implementing a system like this. If you start to, well, always reminded when I go to my Wells Fargo bank account, how seamless it is now, even depositing checks. Back then, we never had the ability to take a picture of a check and suddenly it's already in our bank account, right? So direct deposits via picture, right? So there is an element to that where people that have been used to doing things, have to relearn something new, and there's always this hesitancy to it. I also argue that a lot of the older folks, a lot of this sort of apprehension in moving to a system like that. It's not just a technology perspective, but it's also the fact that a lot of these guys have seen some of the ramifications that government and people that plan this stuff have done that you may or may not agree with how they see it working, right? Case in point, when you start to look at India as an example, why do the Indians buy so much gold, right? If you ask a typical Indian person that has significant amount of his wealth in gold, a lot of it has to do with their mistrust of power in general and mistrust of their currency and that value holding, given the fact that it's directly correlated and tied down to the government that's at power at that time. So when you have these power dynamics, there's a lot of things at play. I agree that the most efficient way is to do it the way we see seamless, but in a case of a complete economic financial meltdown, that might be not be the case, and it would have to be a change of of a lot of turbulence. So prepare for both, but I think at the end of the day, it will get implemented unless you guys think Monero or one of these privacy coins are the key, where everybody just jumps ship on fiat and then transact in a private ledger that nobody can control, nobody can track. Um, it's just
Which
the way
fairy
it
tale
is.
reality can I
Go.
go with that one? Sorry, Emma. Go ahead, man. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I had a question for Ghost. No, it's the same question I asked, but I wanted his opinion on it. I was listening to a chat on precious metals. Where do you think people will park their cash? They said India is buying silver hand over fist. We get a collapse, where they're going to park their cash. You think they're going to go to crypto, silver, gold, precious metals, real estate? One guy said it's got a utility value. Where do you think? Are they just going to leave it in cash? I mean, I know Ray Dalio said cash is no longer trash in his mind. So where do you think after a collapse they're going to go for? Something trusted like a precious metal? I'm maybe playing the devil's advocate here, so bear
Sure.
with me.
Sure. I think it has to be a lot of those verticals. People exit accordingly. I mean, let's hypothetically, if an economic collapse happens where we start to experience the same thing as Venezuela with regards to hyperinflation. I don't think we're at that stage yet, but let's assume that the Fed says, okay, the only monster that we're going to fight is inflation, right? And then 6 months, 8 months from now, we have some civil unrest, and the Fed goes, okay, well, we can't fight inflation while people are rioting outside the door. Let's just stop the rates and then print more money to try to solve this problem. Then, in a year or so, we get complete hyperinflation and we have a Venezuelan movement, right? So in that scenario, I see a lot of these verticals as being exit ramps, right? The same way they've been positioning BTC as an exit ramp for this supposed corrupt system that the BTC people say. A lot of the people will park that money in gold, silver, any kind of assets, real estate outside, and even dollar denominated assets, even that they feel that had value, right? Um, just to get out of the cash perspective and the expectancy of hyperinflation, you have to have the base assets, whether it's land, uh, you know, uh, I don't think equities would be it unless you're talking about equities that you're focusing farmland and food and so forth like that. That could be potential plays. But crypto would be a major part for the younger population. I mean, they over the last 10 years they've sort of put this narrative out that it's an investment and an option in case of this sort of market collapse. And I see it completely going tanking, and then a rotation into that asset class as well. If people are willing to spend millions of dollars on a freaking monkey picture, I sure would hope that people will be spending millions of dollars in utility tokens that they could foresee as something of holding a value. So it's a multiple of those, I think.
Thank you, Ghost. Hey, man, do you think people know enough about crypto, like they know enough about precious metals to park it in crypto? Does the
No, they don't. But the population would be nudged into it. Here's why I see that happening, because I see a lot of large institutions going for a place something like this, right? So let's say again the same hypothetical scenario where there's nothing in equities, there's nothing in commodities, right? And you get like spot Bitcoin, spot Ethereum at that point. Then you see a significant push by institutions and their media mobster sort of arrangements with the media team that this is the safe asset, at least temporarily, until we figure out what's happening with inflation, right? So that would be some sort of narrative of some sort of store of value, right? First it would be like, okay, well, let's, instead of your fiat being in the bank, you have control of the bank, right? So they'll push this narrative. You have the control of the bank. You're your own bank. You have your cryptographically locked wallets, right? So that narrative will go for the new people. Wait a minute. Why would I put it in Wells Fargo when I have an app right here that nobody can take, and I have a USDC that's a Stellar-based protocol USDC that I can transfer anywhere from my parents, right? So that flush would come first, and then that search of asset values comes after that. Once you have a lot of that money tied into those stable coins, and go, okay, well, Bitcoin's the real store of value, then there'll be rotation of that, and a lot of these projects will just continue to mint money that way. Um, because it's just a lot of money. There's too much money slushing around the system for it not to find crypto, and it's a perfect vehicle for them in a complete economic disaster.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
I always love it when you come up, Ghost. You have a great perspective on things.
All good, man. Thanks.
We're coming right up on that 5 o'clock mark. We're gonna end it in probably a couple more minutes. It's really been a good conversation today, and thank you, ML, for coming up and asking those questions, because you really do bring up very very important aspects that might play out in the near term, right? Because I feel like we're at this inflection point, and so yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how the outcome of it all plays out. I hope for the best, of course.